Star Wars: Shadow of the Mandalorian Part 1. In Episode 1, The Ash World, the bounty shuttle sliced through the upper atmosphere of Narca Prime, its engines a dull roar against the perpetual night of the industrial world. Below, the sprawling city was a chaotic lattice of light, each beam struggling to pierce the thick chemical smog that choked the air. Inside the cockpit, the Mandalorian sat impassive, his gloved hands steady on the controls. His Beskar armor was a testament to a life of practicality over polish. It was scarred, dented, and utterly devoid of ornamentation. It was armor meant for a job, not for show. His voice, filtered through his helmet's modulator, was calm and even. Targets on the move, he spoke into the calm Dock 5. On a narrow catwalk connecting two towering refinery structures, a Nikto smuggler ran for his life. Rain slicked the metal platform, reflecting the lurid neon signs of the city below. He risked a glance over his shoulder, seeing nothing but the downpour. He thought he was clear until a heavy thunk sounded ahead of him. The Mandalorian landed squarely in his path, his cape fluttering in the wind and rain, a phantom of vengeance silhouetted against the city's glow. The Nikto skidded to a halt, his eyes wide with disbelief. The Mandalorian. "I heard you were dead." "Not yet," the Mandalorian replied. The fight was as quick as it was brutal. The Nikto drew a blaster, but a flick of the Mandalorian's wrist sent a jet of flame roaring from his gauntlet, forcing the smuggler back. Before he could recover, the Mandalorian closed the distance, the hum of his vibroblade cutting through the air as he disarmed his target. Seconds later, the Nikto was on his knees, magnetic cuffs snapping shut around his wrists. "Bounty claimed," the Mandalorian stated, his tone unchanged. He hauled his quarry back toward the shuttle, the engines already whining in anticipation. The ship lifted off into the rain-soaked sky, vanishing into the darkness as if it were never there. Later, safely in the sterile quiet of hyperspace, the Mandalorian was counting his credits when an incoming transmission overrode the ship's systems. The signal was heavily encrypted, and the voice that spoke was masked, its origin impossible to trace. "Coordinates transmitted," the voice said. "Retrieve the object, tenfold payment upon delivery." The Mandalorian toggled the comm. "What kind of object?" "One you'll recognize when you see it." The transmission cut out, leaving only the hum of the ship's engine. The Mandalorian studied the coordinates that now glowed on his nav computer. Morvath, a name that stirred no memories, which in his line of work was rarely a good sign. When his ship dropped out of hyperspace, he saw the planet spinning slowly in the void. Morvath was a fractured shell of obsidian and rock, its surface webbed with glowing rivers of magma. His ship's sensors painted a grim picture, atmospheric life signs, none. He sealed his helmet with a familiar hiss and began his ritual. He checked his Wester blaster, secured his vibroblade, and armed the gauntlets. Every piece of equipment was a tool, and he was a master of his trade. The surface of Morvath was a wasteland of black volcanic glass and fine gray ash. The air was unnaturally still, the silence so profound it felt like a physical weight. His helmet's HUD highlighted a structural anomaly 1.7 kilometers from his position. He set off on foot, his boots leaving the only tracks on this dead world. The ruins rose from the ash like the skeletal fingers of a long dead giant, jagged spires of black stone, half buried in solidified lava flows, clawed at the sky. A strange, crimson light seeped from deep cracks in the stone, pulsing like a weak heart. The Mandalorian drew his blaster, his senses on high alert. "Structure located," he murmured into his calm, a habit from years of working with partners who were long gone, proceeding inside. The main hall was a cavern of broken columns and shattered statues. The carvings depicted ancient warriors in ornate armor, wielding jagged blades. The air was heavy, stagnant, and carried a faint, unsettling whisper that slithered at the edge of his hearing. He moved deeper, his helmet lamp cutting a white beam through the gloom. The walls of a long passageway were covered in frescoes of epic battles between crimson-bladed warriors and Jedi Knights. In every carving, the eyes of the warriors were inlaid with dull red crystals that seemed to absorb the light. His beam fell upon one enormous figure, a crowned king in black armor, holding a jagged sword. For a moment, the Mandalorian could have sworn its crystalline eyes glinted back at him. The passage opened into a vast circular chamber. In the center, a single shaft of crimson light from a fissure in the ceiling illuminated a stone pedestal. Resting upon it was a jagged pyramid of black metal, its surface etched with glowing red. Runes, a Sith holocron. The Mandalorian's scanner beeped once, then died with a fizzle of static. Looks expensive, he muttered to himself, stepping forward. He reached out and his gloved fingers brushed against the cold surface of the artifact. The universe-fractured images, violent and overwhelming, flooded his mind. He saw armies of warriors kneeling before him. He saw the bodies of Jedi crushed beneath his boots. He saw Mandalorian banners flying over the smoldering ruins of 100 cities. He saw his own visor, its T-slit glowing with a malevolent crimson light. Mandalorian. Warrior. Killer, a voice echoed in his head, ancient and powerful. I can make you more. The Mandalorian snatched his hand back as if burned, his breath coming in ragged bursts. Not interested in more, he growled, the words a shield against the vision's pull. Just the credits. He grabbed the holocron and shoved it into a pouch on his belt. As he stepped out of the ruins and back into the ashen daylight, the ground began to tremble. A massive insectoid creature, its chitinous armor cracked and gray from centuries of hibernation, erupted from the shadows. It towered over him, its mandibles clicking hungrily. As the creature lunged, the holocron on his belt pulsed with a faint energy. The world seemed to slow down. His movements became impossibly fluid, his aim preternaturally precise. He fired his blaster, not in a panic, but with a cold, instinctive knowledge, each bolt striking a weak point in the creature's armor. The beast roared in agony and collapsed, its massive form crashing to the ground. The Mandalorian stared down at his blaster, a deep sense of unease washing over him. That wasn't just skill, it was something else. Miles above, in the sterile briefing room of a New Republic frigate, Captain Dane watched the sensor logs from Morvath. Faint, unusual energy spikes had been detected on the planet's surface just moments ago. Send word to Agent Voss, Dane said to his aide. We've got another one. Back on the surface, the Mandalorian loaded his gear back onto his ship, the unsettling encounter already being compartmentalized and pushed away. He placed the Sith holocron on the dashboard, its faint, rhythmic pulsing filling the cockpit with a soft red glow. As the ship lifted off, leaving the dead world of Morvath behind, the voice whispered in his mind again, as familiar as his own thoughts. This is the way. The fighter angled towards the stars and, with a flash of brilliant light, jumped into hyperspace. In a dark chamber, light years away, a hooded figure stood before a holographic star map. On a table before them, another crimson pyramid, a twin to the one the Mandalorian now carried, glowed faintly. The shadow is moving, the figure whispered, their voice a soft rustle in the silence.